interface. Now we don't have any passive interface. Do show IP protocols. Do show IP, okay, protocols. As you can see, now we don't have any passive interface. Let me to use the second method here. I'm using AF interface, then default means all interface. Passive. Now we will lose the neighborship. Look at here, we don't have neighborship now. After that, you can use again here on one specific interface, AF interface, serial 10. Again, no passive interface. Now we will have again the neighborship, okay? Do show IP protocols. As you can see, only the fast Ethernet 00 is the passive interface. Let me to summary all of the methods beside of each other for better understanding. Look at here. Here, because we are migrating from the traditional configuration to the named configuration, we should learn about different methods. But in future, we have only one consistent method, the named method. Let me to configure the passive interface in this scenario with different method, okay? This is the passive interface configuration. First, in the router 1, you know that in router 1, we are using the traditional, okay, method. You have two options, router, EIGRP 1, then passive interface, fast Ethernet 00. Or the second method, router, EIGRP 1, passive interface, okay, then a default. And after that, no passive interface, the serial 10. That's it. In the router 2 is using the, for example, named mode. Okay, named mode. Let me to configure router EIGRP ENARSI, then address family IPv4 unicast autonomous system. For example, 1. Here you can go to the AF interface fast Ethernet 00, then passive interface. This is the first method. And also you can configure this method, okay, the router EIGRP ENARSI, again address family IP4 unicast autonomous system 1, AF interface default. Here you can use passive interface default, and also again the AF for example interface serial 10. Here you should use the no passive interface. You know that the commands that we are configuring on one interface, one specific interface, has priority to the AF interface default. Means when you are configuring all interfaces as the passive interface with passive interface default, and also on one specific interface with no passive interface, finally the serial 10 will be non-passive interface. Because of that, all of these four methods are working with the same behavior. And you know that for the monitoring, we are using the show IP protocols, and also the for example show IP EIGRP, okay, interfaces. That's it. Okay, so easy. But the better command is the show IP protocols. Until now, we have learned how we can remove, or how we can, for example, prevent the sending of the EIGRP hello. Because of that, now we don't have this EIGRP hellos. Let me to show you with another color. Okay, why? Because of efficiency, because of more, for example, security. We don't have this EIGRP hellos now. Okay, and now we can start talking about the neighborship itself. You know that until now we have learned about the neighborship, and we know that the neighborship how is establishing after sending the EIGRP hello. But now we have one important question. The question is that what are the neighborship conditions in the EIGRP? For neighborship, we have some requirements, we have some conditions, okay? Neighborship requirement or neighborship conditions, okay? This means that inside of the EIGRP hello, we have some important information that we should learn about them. If that information or those information are compatible between the router 1 and router 2, they can establish the neighborship with each other. Now let me to talk about the neighborship conditions. What are the neighborship conditions in the EIGRP? In EIGRP, when we are sending hello from the router 1 to the router 2, And also from the router 2 to the router 1, actually we are sending some parameters. These parameters should be checked between two routers, and if they are compatible, we will have the neighborship. Let me to talk about these conditions. This is so important to learning about these conditions, because when we are experiencing some problems related to the neighborship, the first thing that we should verify is the neighborship conditions. For example, we don't receive the routing update from the R2 in the router 1. Why? Because we don't have neighborship. And what is the reason of the neighborship problem? Here in the neighborship requirement you can find it. Okay, let me to talk about the neighborship requirement in the EIGRP. You know that in each routing protocol the neighborship requirements are different. The first thing that in EIGRP important in the neighborship is configuring the same AS number between these two routers, because with the same AS number actually you say that these two routers are residing in one AS and they should establish the EIGRP neighborship. If you configure different AS numbers in the routers, the neighborship does not establish. Let me to show you. You know that here in the router 1 we have configured router EIGRP1. Let me to show you here, show run, then a section router EIGRP. As you can see, we have configured router EIGRP1, and also in the router 1, if you want to see, show run, then section router EIGRP, it can show us that we have configured the address family IPv for Unicast Autonomous System 1. Okay, this means that the AS number is same between these two routers. Actually, in the EIGRP hellos, we have the AS number. Look at here. Let me to capture the link between the router 1 and also router 2. Again, I'm going to show you the information that now I'm going to talk about them. The first is the AS number. We expect to see AS number in both hello from the router 1 and hello from the router 2. This is the EIGRP packets. Okay, this is the hello from the router 2, 10122. Here you can see in the Cisco EIGRP that this is the hello message, and after that here you can see that we have the autonomous system number is 1. This is the hello from the router 2, and in the hello from the router 1 again we have the AS number of 1. Now let me to change the AS number in one router. For example, in the router 1 I'm going to configure the EIGRP AS number to Y. I'm going to change it because I'm going to show you when you are using different AS number, the neighborship cannot establish. Okay, let me to show you first in the router 1. Let me to remove the EIGRP1, no router. Okay, EIGRP1. Now we don't have this EIGRP, and actually we don't have neighborship. Do show IP EIGRP neighbors. We don't have any neighborship. And after that, let me to configure router EIGRP2 with the first network statement 10.1.2.1 again quad 0. As you can see, now we don't have neighborship between the router 1 and the router 2. The reason is that we are using different AS number between the router 1 and router 2. As you can see here in the router 2, we don't have neighborship. Also show IP EIGRP neighbors. Yes, we don't have neighborship. And also in the router 1, do show IP EIGRP neighbors. In the capture also, you can see that the AS number that we are advertising from the router 2 is the 1, and from the router 1 is the 2. Because of that, as you can see here, we don't have neighborship. Because of that, this is the first requirement